Welcome back to the third episode of the QP Only Ironman. Last time we left off with finishing Tourist Trap, and now having reached level 20 agility, I'm ready to start doing the X marks the spot quest, or at least training around the quest start first. Before actually starting, I started by going to Port Sarim to get some fishing equipment, and to do this I got myself locked up at Shanty Pass and got transported to Port Sarim jail. I thought that since this is available to free players as well, this would not provide any thieving experience, but it turns out I was wrong. So there's already 4 experience on my exception counter, even though I could just as easily have avoided getting the XP. Anyway, I went and bought my fishing equipment at the fishing store and went back to Lumby to start training some skills around Veos' house. I started by chopping down some trees to get my fletching up a bit more, and selling the bows to the general store for a small profit. While training fletching, I got an evil Bob random event in between, which gave me a bit of fishing XP as well. I do have a question for you guys as viewers though. If I'm standing outside the reach of a quest objective, should I be allowed to do the evil Bob random event? I myself don't think so, but leave a comment below the video to let me know what you think. Anyway, I trained my fletching up to level 20, after which I moved on to the oak tree at the other side of the river, where I made oak short bows. And at level 25 I switched to oak long bows up to level 30. At that point I could train fletching on willows, which I decided to do sometime later. I guess it would have been better to train here, because it's so close to the general store, but that's a thought I only had later on. I then moved on to fly fishing, where I also trained my fire making at the same time, so that I could cook my trouts and salmons there. I banked on my fish for food later, and moved to the next skill when I got level 35, which meant I could start harpooning. In total, this got me to around 160 trouts and 60 salmons. I then cooked my remaining stack of raw shrimps and moved on to do some thieving training, which I would need to later steal from the stalls in Draynor. After a short while I got to level 22, which was all I would need to start thieving in Draynor, and that meant I had done everything I wanted to do here. So I started the quest at Veos, got a spade from the store, dug up the first step north of Bob's house, and then checked if the tree patch was within distance of the next quest objective, which it was. So I did some raking content. While doing some IRL stuff, I got some farming levels in between by raking, which got me up to level 5 farming. Then I dug up the orb at the back entrance of the castle for the next quest step. The digging spot for this next quest step was just northeast of Draynor, which was within sight of the Draynor rooftop agility course, so I started training there and collecting some first marks of grace. I would train here up to level 30, because that would unlock the course at Farrock, and I would start receiving even fewer marks of grace from this course. So when I got to level 30 I stopped doing laps here, and in total this got me up to 13 marks of grace. I then continued the quest, which I sadly didn't record, but here you see my bank before with the orb and after with the next clue. The next step was to dig in the pig pen, which was in range of the market stalls here, so I started training my thieving there. I trained on the wine stalls up to level 27 for seed stalls, and then went on to steal there. Stealing here was a bit more of a challenge, because of the 2 guards and Olivia walking around, so I had to keep finding spots to stand and steal without getting caught. In the background you can see that the tree spirit patch was also in range of the pig pen, so in between getting some thieving levels at the seed stalls, I used that patch every now and then to get some more farming experience by raking it regularly. I alternated my training a little bit as well by killing dark wizards, but making sure by ranging them first that they moved close enough to the pig pen so that I wouldn't gain any experience while being too far away from the pig pen. After a few kills I got the black wizard's hat and the wizard's robe top, and then I killed a few more wizards until I didn't have enough bronze arrows from Tutorial Island left, so I raked a bit more and then got another farming level, and then got back to stealing from the stalls, getting just 10 experience every successful steal from the seed stall. Then, after getting my thieving up to level 35, I finally realized the market guards could be trapped inside the wise old man's house, which made the rest of the grind to 38 a lot easier. And of course, I alternated a bit with some raking in between. I then grinded on a few more levels and finally got 38 thieving by stealing from the seed stalls for around 1500 times, getting 10 XP every successful steal. and after banking my seeds I moved on immediately to get my Draynor achievement task of stealing from Martin, and then I continued thieving from master farmers to get my thieving up to level 40 in the end, and then to finish it all off I raked the spirit tree patch to get to level 10 farming. I then finally finished off the quest by digging in the pig pen and handing over the casket to Veos. I claimed my XP lamp right after finishing the quest, picking Hunter because that's the hardest skill to train for my restrictions. While I was here anyway, I grabbed a compost pack from the farming shop to use for farming later. The next quest I'd do is Cook's Assistant, which I was finally ready for, being level 396 total now. And I was going to need that compost pack, because you can't say Cook's Assistant without saying farming grind. I'll explain later why I do this grind now. So anyway, I went back to the farm south of Falador and bought my first farming supplies, which I would use for the farm runs. For my first farming location, I've got all 4 of these patches within range of the dairy cow, which was my quest objective for getting a bucket of milk. I planted a couple of cabbage seeds, a rosemary to protect them, and some herbs, and then I went to the charter store to buy pineapples, which I would then be able to use to make super compost. The next farming location I had was in the old Hosidius house before the rework. When I made this recording, the northernmost farming patch was just within range of the Hosidius dairy cow, and so was the north side of the compost bin. And that meant I was able to use both of those for farming training. The next available location was the Ardoin farming patch, where I sadly only had access to the southernmost patch. And finally in Yanil, just south of the dairy cow there, I also had access to a hops patch. While the crops were growing, I crafted some leather to get the last single experience point for level 8 crafting using the cow hides I got earlier, while standing next to the dairy cow in the Lumbridge field. I then sold my leather to the general store for a very small profit if you take both tanning and the Alcrid gate fee into account. The first couple of crafting levels were really easy to get going, so before doing another farm run I already got my crafting level up to double the level it was before. That doesn't take away the fact that the first round of harvest also got my farming levels shooting up though. After the first harvest I got back to training more crafting and Lumbridge and kept alternating between training crafting and doing some farm runs. As promised, I'll explain why I want to do these grinds right now. The crafting grind is to access the crafting guild at level 40, and the farming grind is to grind as much farming as I can now that I've got a quest with lots of access to it. During one of the farm runs, although I didn't expect to get any more levels this way during the runs, I got a level doing some raking on the herb patch. I then got another farming level, and a few more crafting levels, and then for the last couple of XP to hard leather bodies, I just got a few gems for the level up. While putting this new skill to use, I finally got my first exam random event. This event reward would give me another level, and it would unlock the first possible hunter creature that might just be close enough to a quest objective that I would be able to catch it. That's because all hunter creatures before level 5 live very far away from quests, so the lowest level creature I would be able to catch would be in the desert during one of the quests there. I went on making more hard leather bodies, which I of course sold to the general store again. These bodies were a lot more profitable than the regular leather, so this crafting grind finally started making me a little bit of money. I then realized that the hops patch just north of the egg spawn in the chicken pen is also within one minimap of the egg. So that would be within range of an objective. After all, this is probably the exact place every noob gets their first egg for this quest. Because of that, I started using that patch from now on for the rest of this grind. Sometime before getting the big profit on hard leather, I got 30 attack, for which I sadly missed the level up, so I decided to buy an adamant sword in Varrock as an upgrade. On the way back, I jumped over the fence for the Varrock achievement, which gave me no experience anyway. I then kept on grinding out my farming and crafting levels, but since this video is already getting long enough, I'll stop at total level 500, which is already more than 100 levels higher than when I started Cook's Assistant. And next episode I'll finish the grind to 40 crafting and move on to do some shorter but still very useful quests. And with this level 31 farming, I got my total level to 500. I hope you enjoyed. See ya!